Alright guys, welcome back. So I know I said that the next video was supposed to be part 4 of the How I Built My E36 series, but because of what happened in this event here, I'm going to be changing things up a bit. So the video timeline right now looks like first we'll be covering all the fixing and adjustment of things with the E36. And then once we're done with that, then we'll do another track day, and we'll try to get the car reliable. I will be making videos and explain what's left to cover on the build series for the E36, but it's simply because I might be making changes to the car, so I figure it's just best to hold off on the meantime, but it shouldn't be too long of a wait. So let's go ahead and get into this video, and let's talk about the event that we did. So today's event takes place up at Thunderhill. It was held by a group called Drift Maybe. We actually ended up showing up a bit late to this one. And I actually didn't know the layout at first, so I was just kind of winging it. You can kind of see in the videos, like the first go arounds they're a little wonky. I was just kind of following the cones, but there was actually like you're supposed to stop and you're supposed to do a little donut around the cone and then come back around. I ended up figuring that out when I was watching the other people do it. So I was having trouble at first. It's been around a year since the last time I went drifting. As you guys know, the Turbo E36 build, all that ended up taking a lot longer than I thought it would. But I've been practicing on the sim almost daily now for some time. So I was able to get the feel for it and make some improvements, like preventing spin out. I was able to, start incorporating the e-brake, a little bit of left foot braking, and just overall staying in drift. But everything was kind of cut short, so I wasn't able to fully find my rhythm. One thing I still really want to do is tandem. I'm hoping on the next one we'll be able to. I was kind of hoping we'd find somebody on this event, but because of what happened, I guess we'll just have to wait till the next one, see if anybody's down to tandem with me. I've actually never tandem, and that's one thing that I'm looking forward to for sure. So as for the car itself, everything held up fine. There was no leaks, nothing broke. I was actually surprised. I was kind of waiting for like one of the aaand lines to pop loose or just something crazy to go on. That usually happens every time you do something crazy like a build and you test it out, right? Shit goes wrong. But everything held up fine, besides the engine. but we'll get to that. One major problem I did have was with the tune itself. The car was running pretty rich at first. I ended up tuning it a bit. I got it down a little bit, but it was still running rich. I was kind of worried to take away too much fuel. And at the time, it also felt like the car was suffering from fuel cuts or misfires on quick accelerations. I tried adjusting it trackside, but that's when I really realized how much I still have to learn on the tuning side of things. And I wasn't able to address the problem. I was just too nervous. And, with the whole event and my adrenaline being kicked up, I was just having trouble figuring out what needed to be fixed. I have some solutions to this, but we'll just have to wait and see how they turn out. So the car was also bogging a lot. It took a little to get it going. Like at first I thought it was also because of the tune, but now looking back, I think it was more the turbo itself. I think the turbo is just too big and I don't want lag. I want, just instant acceleration. So I think it's probably in the future we're going to be downsizing the turbo. Oh, and a cool note, the E36 was actually spitting flames out of the wastegate dump tube throughout the runs. It was super cool. It was just one of those things where I was hoping it would happen. And when it did, I was so excited. When I seen the first spit of flame, I was hyped. It's pretty fucking cool. But I think I'm just going to shut up real quick and we'll do one more run here. So about halfway through the day, the engine started sounding funny. It actually died on me as I was coming back into the pits. I was thinking I was gonna have to push it back all the way to my truck, but I was able to start it up, and the only way to get it to move was just to rev it up really high, but it was making a really wonky sound. Um, and I was just super nervous, and I could tell something was definitely wrong. So right then and there, I made the decision to pull the plug early, and we ended up towing the car back home. And this is what it sounded like. So because I knew something was going on with the tune and I just couldn't fix it myself, as well as the car running super rich, my first thought was potentially a fouled spark plugs. I didn't have the tools at the track to diagnose it, but now that we have it in the garage, um, that's kind of the first thing that we're going to look at here. So let's see what happened there. All right, so I got all the spark plugs out, and they definitely look like there's a lot of unburnt fuel left on them. I got them in order from 1 to 6 here, and honestly, it's hard for me to tell if it's the actual spark plug. I think what I'm gonna do now is leave these out and go ahead and do a compression test and see what the compression test says and move from there. This might be the problem, this might be the cause, but I kind of just want to double check it and just make sure everything else is good first before replacing the spark plugs, because I don't know if this is bad enough. I don't know if this is bad enough to cause the problem. Like, it's pretty black, it's pretty fouled up, but I guess we'll see. We'll test everything else out just to really double check. But that's what the spark plugs look like there. Alright, so now I'm going to do compression test. Let's see how healthy this engine is going to be. Let me just disconnect the fuel relay real quick. Alright, so here are the results for test number 1 on cylinder 1. We're going to go ahead and write this down and do the other ones and compare them, see if one of them's off. Alright, so we got the compression test done here. Here are the results. And yeah, cylinder 4 isn't looking too happy there. Got a big fat 0. Yeah, it's a real bummer. Something's definitely going on with the engine. So we have to figure out what's going on with cylinder 4. Really, the only solution that I can think of is removing the cylinder head and taking a look inside the engine and seeing what's damaged, why there's no cylinder pressure, why it can't contain any pressure or any compression. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that, kind of hoping it doesn't need a new engine, since yeah, we just got this one turbo boosted, and first time taking it out to the track, it blew up. It is what it is, but let's get started with the cylinder head teardown. If you guys remember, I told you this downpipe here is a bitch to get out. It's like Tetris. You just have to mess around with it. Eventually, you figure out the angle. Oh god. Here we got it out. Whew. Got it out. Cool. I don't know if you guys can see this. So this is actually inside of cylinder 4. I don't know if you can really tell, but I just noticed I can see a valve peeking out. This is the only cylinder where I can see the valve just barely peeking up out of the top left corner up there. So I'm thinking we got a bent valve here. I'm thinking one of the valves are bent, and that is definitely a problem. going to start tearing apart the turbo manifold and the turbo and everything around the cylinder head, everything that bolts onto it and stuff. One quick tip, there's a lot of bolts that are going to come off, and they're all different sizes, and it gets really confusing figuring out when it's time to put everything back together where exactly these bolts are supposed to go. It's really confusing. So one thing I recommend is using sandwich bags. They're really great for organizing like various different bolts and nuts and what have you. That way, when it comes time for the rebuild, we know exactly what bolts go to where, and it's just one less thing to worry about. So I think I found the problem here. If you look real closely, it definitely looks like, I think it's the exhaust port on cylinder 4 is bent. No bueno. If you look on this side, they all look pretty straight. Then you go to this one. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just ever so slightly bent. It looks worse in person. Alright, but I think we found our problem here. The only thing that I'm wondering now is what caused this valve to bend and whether or not the bottom end is going to be salvageable. So I think what we're going to do next is just continue on with tearing apart the cylinder head, and then figure out why that valve got bent, because right now, you know, the only thing I'm thinking of is a timing issue, but only that valve is bent, which is strange to me. But that's kind of the next step right now, is figuring out why it's bent, and then obviously figuring out what we're going to do about it and how we're going to fix it. Alright, so we finally confirmed that it's a bent valve on cylinder 4. I'm going to keep tearing apart the engine, trying to see what we can figure out what it is that caused the valve to bend like that. I'm thinking it's either timing related, could also be maybe the camshaft got messed up somehow. At first I was thinking it was a tune, because when we were at the track the tune wasn't running right, it wasn't perfect. Now I really don't know. It's kind of up in the air till we figure that out. So there's two things to figure out. There's what caused the bent valve, as well as how we're going to address the tuning. I have solutions to both of those. You guys will just have to see in the upcoming videos. Another thing we're going to do is, I think I'm going to go ahead and switch to a smaller turbo. Right now it has a GT35. I think I'm going to downscale to a GT30. When we were at the track, I noticed that there was a lag time to the spool. So I really just want a quick spool time, just so we can accelerate quickly. Just to butt in real quick, I noticed I didn't mention another reason why I want to downscale a turbo is my horsepower goals is really only like 350 to 400. I'm not trying to make 500 plus. In that case, it would make sense to have the GT35. But I really only need like 8, 10, max like 12 PSI boost, at least for the time being. Since I'm still learning how to drift and I'm trying to get better at drifting, I don't want to just have crazy amount of power and, you know, kill myself. So I think downscaling is going to be best for me. So that's one thing we're going to be doing, is replacing the turbo with a smaller one. You know, right now is kind of the perfect time to do that since everything's apart. There's other things I might do too. I have to look back over my notes, just so when we get everything put back together, it'll be smooth and we'll get it tuned properly and it'll be hopefully reliable. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna end the video here, and then next week we'll catch up to where I am with diagnosing it, as well as making modifications and all that stuff. Okay, take care, guys.